Ah, and there's another O. This is great. This is a lovely O. Down and up and over and back. And so the next set of letters in the group on this sheet start with an interesting shape. So of course, you know, with Copperplate script, the A is a hairline stroke, or what I call a hairline connective stroke. Then a line of universal beauty stroke that is on the 55. And one of the things that I've been finding is I sort of feel that the tool goes up and down and then up and over. And the variations here are myriad. There's so many variations. You can either go up and over and under and back and down. But this one does this and on the side and out. So again, there's so many variations that I've found. One of the variations with this W is this and that, pressure, release, pressure, hairline, pressure, release, pressure, line and over and curve. Then we have an F. And finally, I get to start the next page. So that's just the first page. So this is the next page that I'm working off of. So I'm going to swap to my nib and redo those letters for you with a nib. So of course you see a very different kind of letter now. Because if you look at the curve here, and this is a much sharper curve, so the tool really does sometimes, well, actually, the tool really does dictate what happens to the letter. And then the pressure release pressure ones. And then we have this F. Little dollop serif. V. And then we move to W, which is like an N and a V. So this B starts at the cap height and then it doesn't touch the cap height. And the positioning of these two bowls really changes quite a lot. So I have another B here as well. And you can see that this is small and that's bigger, but this is facing down and this is facing up, and the deposition is in a different place. You can see the weight is here and here, whereas the weight is lower down. So there's so much that you have to pay attention to. And this is a really typical shape for the letter A. Again, I'm sort of falling into my own trap here of my angular confinement system. These A's actually look like this. So you have this, again, you know, I come back to this plain-sided figure construction, and you have this amazing sort of isosceles triangle. So these triangles play a really big part in the shape of the letters. So like my C, I would do this. So you really get that sort of parallelogram shape. And here, this C is, again, forming a triangle. So it's really fascinating when you sort of get to when you start looking at the letters with this slightly different approach. So that's a little bit too squat. So this is a taller letter. The D's are really amazing as well. And you know, again, it's coming back to these letters that we've just sort of disregarded for the last, I guess for the last 100 years or so. This is too high at the top. Again, it's too high at the top. So maybe this letter is actually two sixes rather than 3. So yeah, that's closer to what I have. I think as well, the other thing is I'm always tending for the 55. And one of the things I've really come to learn with these letters is they're not always on the 55. So that's clearly not on the 55. So my idea of an E is obviously this. And some of the E's we have in this English Roundhand period start off with a downstroke and this shape, which is so beautiful. And you really get a chance to see them sort of taking their time with the writing. So I have a few of these. We have this one. So obviously this exit ligature joins the next letter, which was probably going to be a minuscule. And again, I'm looking at my notes, and I'm really seeing that I am struggling to keep the letters at a non-55 angle. So there I am, sort of naturally tending to the 55, where the historical letters don't necessarily sit on that 55. And this is something else that I really struggled with in this study. When I do a K, I tend to keep my downstrokes on the 55. Excuse me. But what I found with these Ks is they tend to come over and under and across. I'm coming straight down and out and around. So you get this, you know, again, I'm sticking within this parallelogram, but you get this decided sort of triangular shape. Really fascinating. Love this L. So that's your baseline, right? So this L does this. Oh, sorry. So it doesn't sit on the baseline, it's just a little bit above the baseline. Actually, I've made it too big. So that's the baseline there. So this little loop, little cusp serif or cusp exit stroke sort of bisects the baseline. And we'll go down one more line. So 2 and 3. That's an L. Where are we at? Some M's. This is something to look out for. So I'll do that again. Too much dynamic rotation. And up and just a little over. So it's two completely different shapes, very similar to the top of the A, but a lot blunter. One of the things that I've seen in a lot of the ends in this period is this shape. Which really freaked me out because I always tell my students, do not wiggle. So when I do a P, those two downstrokes are on the 55, as is this upstroke ligature. A lot of people, when they do the letter P, they do this and they wiggle. So this is on the 55 and this is at a different angle. And that causes a problem in the distribution of space. So to find that this wiggle is added is really interesting. But notice the wiggle is not this. There's weight here. Pressure here, no pressure here, pressure here. Whereas this is just pressure, so it completely changes the distribution of space inside this counter space. I hope that's given you a little bit more insight into the letters that I'm doing some research in. I think they're really fascinating. They're giving me a very different view on what I consider copperplate script as opposed to what English roundhand letter forms really are, and how they're written and how to approach them. It's a really different kind of experience doing this kind of work. So I know for me, my W is 55, 50, 55, 50,